Okay, so today we're going to be graphing linear inequalities. Okay, we've been doing that. This right here. We did that right here, right? We did that with these guys here. Last time we took notes a few days ago, we graphed them, right? We solved them and we graphed them. So what's the difference between what we're doing today and what we did last 2 days ago? Well, these guys only had one variable. If you look in there, there's only an x, right? There's a couple n's, but there's only n. There's no other letter. Same thing over here. There's only a b. There's a couple of them, but there's only b's, right? Over here, there's only x's. Those were one variable. Today, what we're going to be looking at is things with two variables. So things with x and y, okay? So when we're graphing things with two variables, we can't graph them on the number line. We can't graph them on the number line because there's no y on the number line. So that's why we have graphs like this. That's why we have graphs, because if it has two variables, we have to have an x and a y axis, okay? Okay, so first thing, little bit of review. Slope intercept, y equals mx plus b. You've probably heard that many, many times before today. Okay, y equals mx plus b. So let's review that. What is y equals mx plus b? It's what we call slope intercept form of a line. Okay, it's one of the three forms of a line. Okay, m is the slope. What? So when you think of slope, what's the first thing that comes in your mind? Something over something. What's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think of slope? It's written on the board. Rise over run. Rise over run, right? Goes with slope, right? That's what slope is. It's rise over run. Okay. B is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. Where it crosses the x-axis. That's where we start. We start there, and then the slope tells us how to get to our next dot. Okay. That's slope intercept. We're going to be using that one a lot. And then there's standard form. Sometimes standard form, they'll give it to us in standard form where x and y are on the same side. Okay, same side of the equal sign. All right, so the steps are here. I also wrote them on the board. I'm not going to go through the steps because we'll go through. I don't want to read the steps yet because we're going to go through them on the first problem. Okay, so most of you guys have done this before, so let's just kind of jump right in, and hopefully it'll start clicking some bells like, I remember that. Okay, so let's look at the first problem. Example number one. We'll do it step by step. I broke it up into the steps. First thing, we have to isolate the y. So the first thing, we have to get it into slope intercept form. To do that, y is always by itself. Y is always by itself, right here. Y is by itself. Nothing on it, nothing with it. Y is by itself. So that's the first thing we have to do. Sometimes they do that for us, sometimes they don't. On number one, they didn't. X and Y are on the same side. All right, so if I draw my blue line here, X and Y are on the left side, 12 is on the right. So the first thing I have to do is get everything else that's not a Y away from the left side, okay? We've kind of done this before. So first thing I'm gonna do is rewrite it. So I have 2x minus 3y is less than 12. Okay, so here's the one, the yellow one is the one I want. Everything else I want away. So 2x I don't want. I want on the other side. The -3 in front, I don't want. I just want the y. Well, -3 is -3 times y. So we're going to do that last. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on 2x. So how do I get 2x away from this side and over here? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? We've done it before. How do I do that? How do I get 2x from one side to the other? I don't want to separate 2 and x. I'll keep them together. So how do I get this guy on this side? Anybody know? Yeah, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. We've done that before. You've done that many times already in this class before. Okay. So this goes away, just like I wanted. I still have a negative 3y. Still have the same symbol. So can I subtract 12 minus 2 and make 10? No, I can't do that, right? Well, why can I not do it? Because one of them has an x and one of them doesn't. If this guy had an x, yeah, you could. But this guy does not. So how do I write it? This is how you write it. We're going to write the number with the x first, because that comes first on slope-intercept. When we have y by itself, we have slope and x first, the number second. Okay, so that's how I'm going to write it. So that's negative 2. So I'm going to write negative 2x, and then is it plus or minus 12? It's plus, right? Because it's positive. Okay, almost there. I still get y. Y is still almost by itself. I just got to get rid of that negative 3. Well, what are negative 3 and y doing? What operation are they doing if they're stuck together? Multiplication, right? And the opposite of multiplication is division. So we've done this before too. So divide by negative 3. So when I divide by negative 3, I got to divide everything by negative 3. So this guy by negative 3, this guy by negative 3. Okay, so negative 3 divided by negative 3 makes 1y. Now, what did I do that I did the last couple days that I need to? There's something I need to do here that I didn't forget, but what did I divide by? A negative, right? So if I divide by a negative number, if I divide both sides by a negative number, I have to do what? Switch the symbol. Yep. Flip the symbol so it's facing the other way. 2/3. 2/3 is a fraction, but they're both negative, right? They're both negative. So two negatives, when you're dividing them or when they're in a fraction, they make a positive. And then negative 3 goes into 12 how many times? Negative 4 times. Good. Step 1 is done. Step 1 is done. Y is by itself. Okay. Step 2 is, okay, now that you have that by itself, what is the slope? What is the y-intercept? So what is going to be the slope here? Which one is in the slope position? 2/3, right? So we're going to write that in the box. We're going to say 2/3. What is in the y-intercept position? Negative 4, right? So we're going to write negative 4, but this is how we're going to write it. Y-intercepts always start with 0. They always start with 0. So I'm going to write 0, negative 4. If it's a y-intercept, it always starts with 0. Because it's a point. It's a dot on the graph. So now I'm going to use those two things to graph. Okay, so I always start with a y-intercept. Make a dot there. That is at this point here. So 0, negative 4 means you go straight down 4. Make a dot. That's one of my dots. Now I need 2 more dots. So what am I going to do to make those 2 dots? How do I use slope? I'm going to use slope, but how do I use slope to get those other 2 dots? Rise over run. So what's the rise? Do I have something wrong? Negative 3, move it down 1. Yep, that is wrong. Let me change it. There you go. Better. So what's the rise? 2. So how do I rise 2? Go up 2. But that's not it, right? I don't stop there. What's the 3 do? Runs. So if I run, which way do I go? To the right. Because it's positive. Positive means to the right. If I run, it's to the right positive. If you can fit more than another dot, do that, but sometimes we can't. Like this one, we can't fit. It would be like right there. If you can fit 3 dots, fit 3 dots. If you can't fit 3 dots, 2 is fine. Okay. So I'm going to draw the line now. Don't do it yet, because look at the next step. The next step says, is it going to be a solid line or is it going to be a dashed line with like holes in it? Well, we're going to use the same thing we did with, remember the open dot and closed dot? Solid is the same as a closed. Solid. When did we have solid? When did we have closed dots? When there was what? An equal, yeah. So we're going to have solid when there's equals. That means when dashed, when there's no equals. Well, what does this one have? This one has one of these guys here. So that is going to be a dashed line. So I'm going to connect the dots. I'm going to connect the 3 dots, but when I do it, I'm going to do a little dashed line, okay? So to draw a line, use your notebook. Use your notebook so you can draw a straight line. It helps with drawing a straight line. The edge of your notebook. Just one edge of the notebook, doesn't matter what edge. Okay. One more step. The last step is I got to shade. Remember when we did a number line? Remember when we did number lines? We graphed number lines over here. We shaded, right? We shaded either to the right or to the left. Well, we have to do that again, but now it's going to look different because it's on a X and Y graph, not just a number line. So I have 2 options. I can shade, don't shade yet. Don't shade yet. I'm just going to show you the 2 options. We can shade on this side, or I can shade on this side. Okay? What's up? Yeah, a seagull's going to do it. Seagull. Yeah, go talk to Seagull. He's in room 81. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. So I have to decide, am I going to shade where the purple is or where the green is? That's what I have to decide. So how do you do that? Well, you pick a point. Pick a point on either the purple or the green. It doesn't matter which point. But there's always a point that I would always pick. What's the easiest point to pick? Does anyone know? 0, 0. Yeah, 0, 0 is the easiest. And I'll tell you why. So I'm going to pick 0, 0. You can't really see that. Pick a different color. 0, 0. I'm going to pick 0, 0 because when I plug in 0, because that's what I got to do. When I plug in 0, things tend to cancel out. That's nice. 0, I don't want to pick negatives. I could pick any point. So like someone in my last class says, do I have to pick 0, 0? No. You can pick 0, 1. I can pick whatever this is. What, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I can pick this dot. I can pick this dot. You don't even have to pick in the purple. You can pick in the green. But I don't want to pick negatives because I don't want to mess with negatives. 0, 0's the nicest one, I think, because watch what I do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the original, the one I just solved, this guy right here. I'm going to rewrite it down below. Okay, I'm going to rewrite it down here. Y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. So, and then I'm going to plug in the point that I picked. I picked 0, 0. So everywhere I see a x, I'm going to put 0. Everywhere I see a y, I'm going to put 0. So it's going to look like this. 0 less than 2/3 times 0 minus 4. So I have 0 for y. X, 2/3 times 0. Well, what is 2/3 times 0? 0. Nice. Goes away. What am I left with? -4, right? So is this a true statement? Is 0 greater than -4? Yeah, 0 is bigger than all the negatives, so it's true. So if it's a true statement, I'm going to shade on the side of 0, 0. So what side is 0, 0? On mine, it's the purple, right? So that's where you're going to shade. You're going to shade. You can just use your pencil if you want. You don't have to use different colors. That's where I'm going to shade. I'm not going to shade the other side because that side didn't work. Or the purple side worked. Okay? So you just can lightly shade that side. Done. So every dot in the purple is a solution. Every dot in the purple. So all of these dots, here, 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 all of those dots are in the solution. Sure. Okay, we're done. That's all you do. I broke it up into steps here. The second two, I didn't break it up into steps. Okay, you're going to do the same thing. You're just not going to break it up into steps. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. Number 2, if you're like, I kind of got this, I kind of remember it. I can try this. Try it. If you're still like, I'm still a little sketchy, I'm going to do it with you. Okay, so if you want to do this, do it on your own. If not, I will do it, but I'm going to do it a little slower probably than some of you might like. So go on without me. Okay. Okay. So again, it has an X and it has a Y. So we got to graph it on this graph here. Isolate Y. Get Y by itself. Okay. So I'm going to rewrite Y. I'm going to rewrite this. I got to get Y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1x to both sides. I can't add -2 and 1. I can't do it because -2 does not have an x. So I'm going to write positive 1x, or just x, minus 2. Okay. Last step, divide by 2. This time I'm divided by a positive, so I don't have to flip the symbol. So y is greater than or equal to 1 over 2x minus 1, because 2 divided by -2 is -1. So that means 1/2 is the slope, -1 is the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercepts always start with 0. Always start with 0. So if it's a -1, that's 0, -1. Okay, step 1 done. Step 2, I need to use these two guys to get to the next point. Okay, so let's make a dot. 0, -1, right there. Go down 1, make a dot. Slope is 1 over 2. So I'm going to go up 1 over 2. Make another dot. Go up 1 over 2. Make another dot. Okay. Before I draw my line, I got to figure out if it's solid or dashed. So this guy right here has an equal sign. This guy has an equal sign. It's greater than or equal to, right? Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. It's all the same, right? So it's going to be a solid line this time. So it's going to be a solid line this time. Okay. There's my graph. Last thing I have to do is decide which side am I going to shade? Am I going to shade everything on this side, or am I going to shade everything on this side? Well, pick 0, 0. What's the only time you can't pick 0, 0? Does anyone know the only time you cannot pick 0, 0 to plug in? Yeah, if the line goes right through 0, 0. That's the only time you can't plug. So you just pick a different one. Okay, so here we go. Y is greater than or equal to 1/2 x minus 1. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug in a 0. Everywhere I see a y, I'm going to plug in a 0. Is it a true statement? Well, let's see. 1/2 times 0, 0. So I'm left with 0 greater than or equal to -1. Is that if it's a true statement, I'm going to shade where 0, 0 is, the side where 0, 0 is. If it's a false statement, I'm going to pick the other side. Let's see, 0 is greater than or equal to -1. Yeah, 0 is bigger than all of the negative numbers. If it's a negative number, 0 is bigger than it. So it's true. So I'm going to shade the side where 0, 0 is. Done. Okay. How many of you guys have done this before? Okay, a couple of you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing, the last thing we're going to do on the notes here is this guy here. Now we got 2 graphs. It's not going to change anything. You're going to do 1. Do all the steps for 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then do all the steps for the other. And then you're done. Okay? It's not going to change anything. All right? So let's start with the first equation, the top one. The top one. Let's see. The top one is right here. Go through the steps. Let's go through step 1. Step 1 says solve for y. Make it say y equals. All right, so I'm going to do this one here. I'm going to move it down here. Okay. Solve for y. Subtract 3x from both sides. Okay. Can't subtract -2 minus 3 because -2 does not have an x. So I write the number -3x first, and then a -2 afterwards. Divide by 2. Divide everything by 2. So I get y is greater than -3 over 2 x minus 1. Okay. So now the slope is right here. The y-intercept is right here. Okay, so in y-intercept always starts with 0. The slope, -2 thirds, 3/2, so -3 over 2. Okay, so let me go do the y-intercept first. The y-intercept is -1. Okay, so -3 over 2. How do I do that? If I have a first of all, where does the negative go? Does it go with the 3? Does it go with the 2? Does it go with both? It could go with the 3. It could go with the 2. The only wrong answer is both. If you say it goes with both, no, it doesn't. Most of the time, that's the way I was taught too, is it goes with the 3. So if it goes with the 3, -3, how do we rise -3? Then you go down 3, yeah. So we go down 1, 2, 3. And then 2 is positive then. So that means you go to the right 2. I can't fit another dot on there, so I'm done. I can't go down 3 anymore because then I'm off the graph. You could have gone you could have gone, so let's say I did the 2 with a negative. So that means I go up 3. How do I go 2 negative? How do I run negative 2? Left, yeah. And look what happens. They're all on the same line. So even if you did that, the only wrong answer would be both are negative. Negative 3 and negative 2. No. Pick one. Okay. That one is a solid line because there's an equals. So I'm going to draw the solid line. Okay. Now I got to see what side to shade. So again, I'm going to pick 0, 0 because 0, 0 is on one side. I'm going to see if 0, 0 is the side or maybe the other side. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x and y. So everywhere I see a y, I'm going to plug in a 0. Everywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug in a 0. Zero cancels out. So I'm left with 0 greater than or equal to negative 1. Is that a true statement? Yeah, again, 0 is bigger than all the negatives. So I'm going to shade that side there. Okay. Done with the first one. What's nice about the second one, though? What's nice about the second one? There's something that's not so bad. What's nice about this one? Yeah, step one's already done for us. Sometimes that's the hardest step. It's already done. Good. Okay, so the second one, what is the slope? I know it's 2 on the bottom, but what's on top? What is a rise? 1, yeah. Remember, if there's no x, it's a 1. So the negative can go with the 1 or it can go with the 2, not both. And then the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right there. So that's 0, 1. So I'm going to do it on same graph. I'm going to do it right on top of the graph. Okay. The shading part is going to be a little weird because I've already shaded, but I haven't shaded for this one yet. So I go up 1, make a dot. Looks like you can use a different color than blue. Yellow. Okay. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. This one's also a solid line because it's less than or equal to, right? Okay. Okay, so I've already shaded one side of the red line, but now I got to do the yellow line. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to move this guy over here. I'm going to move it over here. So wherever, I'm going to use 0, 0 again. 0, 0. So wherever I see a y or an x, I'm going to put 0. So 0 cancels out with negative 1/2. So I have is 0 less than or equal to 1, positive 1. Yeah, 0 is smaller than all of the positives. So that means I'm going to shade below the yellow line. So down here, everything below the yellow line. Some of the shade's going to overlap. That's important because that's what we want. I want some of the shade to overlap. Okay. That's where our solutions are. Actually, where they overlap, this area right here. This area right here, that's actually the solutions to both. So sometimes I'll ask you, give me a point where they're both a solution. Anywhere there, any of these points. You could pick this point here. You could say this point right here. Over 3 down 2, 3 comma 2. You could say this point here, over 4 comma 2, down negative 2, over 4 comma negative 2. You can say here, you could say 0, 0. 0, 0 is actually in between there, right? That's where we want. We want the double shaded arc. That's the only difference, okay? All right, okay, so what I'm gonna do now, you should have a graph, a little square graph. I'm gonna give you one more problem to do in your notes and we'll be done. Okay, one more problem. You're going to do this on the page you're gonna tape it in. So page 8. This will be example number 4. Okay, so this one right here, you're gonna graph 3x minus 2y is greater than 4. Okay. And then we'll tape it in later. We'll tape everything in once we're done. Okay. So graph it. The graph goes on the little half. Any work, do that on your notes paper. The graph will actually go on your graph sheet, the little square. Okay, so I did step 1. So I subtracted 3x from both sides. Divided by negative 2. Everything by negative 2. When I do that, though, I got to flip the symbol. That becomes 1y. Negative divided by a negative makes a positive. Negative divided by a positive makes a negative. So there we go. So this is going to be my slope, and this is going to be my y-intercept. Slope, y-intercept, which is 0, negative 2. Okay, so let me make my graph. Okay, so negative 2, I go down 2, make a dot. 3 over 2. 3 over 2 means go up 3 over 2. Okay, one more time. Go up 3 over 2. Is this a solid or dashed line? Is this a solid or dashed line for this one? Dashed, yep. Yep, no equal sign, so dashed. Okay. Now I gotta decide which side to shade. So I'm gonna pick 0, 0 like I've done because 0, 0 is not on, it's not on the line, so I can pick 0, 0. Okay. So when I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, three halves, 3 over 2 times 0 is 0. So I get 0 less than negative 2. 0 is not smaller than negative 2. 0 is bigger than negative 2. So that means I'm not going to shade the side where 0, 0 is on. 0, 0 is on this side here. I'm not going to shade because it didn't work. It gave me a false statement. So that means I got to shade the other side. This side over here. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so